Hi, good afternoon. It's Dean from maverickstar Observatory. This is probably the most important video I've ever made, ever. And I mean even more important than all the pole shift videos that we've done, ever. And I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't last too long on the web. I worked it out and it was only in the last 24 hours. You know, I knew something was obvious. I just needed to find out what it was, and I'm just wondering right now whether this video is going to spur a mass migration of the Northern Hemisphere. What I'm about to show you in this video is compelling evidence that, first of all, that there is no CO2 causing climate change, and NASA know it. They know it. So does people like Bill Gates know it, and that's why they're buying up all this land, because it is going to be probably the only land that is going to be survivable. And what will that price of that land be then worth? Well, I'll leave it to your imagination. But after you've seen this video, if you live in the Northern Hemisphere of this planet, you're going to know exactly what's coming your way, our way, and why our government are really trying to raise £100 trillion. It's probably more likely to, that is going to be just the beginning of the costs of what it's going to cost the global economic system. And you're going to understand why they didn't want you to watch this video. You're also going to understand why they have been suppressing the information coming off this channel, because they knew I was getting closer, and it was just a matter of time before I discovered what I've discovered, what I'm about to show you, and put all the pieces together. I just want to say, what I'm about to show you is not new, but it stems 50 years ago when a guy called Milankovitch, I think it is, Milankovitch, so I-T-C-H, Milankovitch, I think it is, and yeah, he discovered this cycle of a reoccurring 100,000 years, and it was to do with the eccentricity, which is the shape of our orbit around the sun. And he discovered that it changed to an elliptical shape every 100,000 years. So what does that effect have on our climate? Well, you might already imagine. I'm going to show you the video of the eccentricity, how it expands a little bit. But as the Earth goes further away from the sun for what sometimes lasts 100,000 years, those are not by any coincidence the same amount of time that we spend in a glacial period. I've been telling you this, that's how close I was. I just didn't know about Milankovitch's work, and I did know that we had our orbit slightly changed. I didn't know it did it on every 100,000 year cycles, but it's been well proven now, and scientists know it, and even NASA accept it. And the worrying thing is, we've just started to go into that cycle where we leave the almost perfect spherical orbit and move into that elliptic orbit, and that will put us into a glacial period. There is no global warming, there is no CO2 crisis, and that's why all the evidence that the world's governments have put up so far is very weak. It's almost plausible denial. There should have been, at least I could name 10 people who do YouTube channels just like mine that have never mentioned this cycle and connected it to the ice ages. Like I've been telling people, we are merging. I could just see by where we was on that chart where we was merging back into. I knew we was going into a glacial period. I didn't understand the mechanism which was causing the glacial periods to occur and what made them last 100,000 years. Well, now we've had the final piece of the puzzle. It is the eccentricity of the changing shape of our orbit that we have, and it normally lasts for about 12,000 years, a normal orbit, and then it goes into this eccentricity shape, or the elliptical shape of the orbit, and that's when we start to move further away from the sun in that orbit. So the Earth naturally cools. Remember the tilts, what we have as we go one side round the sun, we're in the summer over the northern hemisphere, closer to the sun, and in the southern hemisphere we're in the winter. So over the northern summer hemisphere, summer, winter, southern hemisphere. Right, have I said that right? You know what I'm talking about. It's the northern hemisphere I'm talking about. But anyhow, let me show you the video and let me show you that NASA know exactly what's going on. So as you can see in this video, the eccentricity or the orbital shape, how it changes over 100,000 year cycles. And at the bottom right, you can see I produced the video, can't you? And I suppose if I just go over to the climate change website on NASA, you'll see exactly where we are right now on this cycle. But as you can see, as the Earth gets further away, it moves further from the Sun, therefore more cold is able to increase the ice mass. And that is exactly what started to happen this year. And like I say, NASA don't deny the fact that this is happening. But they just haven't mentioned it, haven't they, in the mainstream media? They've not said it's global cooling, we're going back into a glacial period. What they've said is it's global warming, it's man-made, and therefore we need to raise £100 trillion. That £100 trillion is going to get spent on bunkers. It's going to be spent on, saving who they feel is fit for human continuity on this planet. Have a look at this site. So if you look first of all at what site we're on, you can see NASA, global climate change, vital signs of the planet. And where I've highlighted it, it tells you exactly where we are in this cycle, and NASA know it, and they've not told anybody about it. Currently, Earth's eccentricity is near its least elliptic, which means it's not like an egg shape, it's more circular. And very slowly decreasing in a cycle that spans about 100,000 years. You know what that 100,000 years is, don't you? It's a glacial period. And that's exactly where we are right now. And if we look at the Arctic sea ice, we can see in 2021 2 million square kilometres of extra ice has rebounded over the northern hemisphere. We're about to go into the glacial period, ladies and gentlemen. So when you look at the last 400 years, we can see the last 5 interglacial cycles. You can see we are about to go into a glacial cycle. And you can see by no coincidence that they are evenly distributed and last roughly the same amount of time. And that is what happens on the eccentricity when the orbit changes of our Sun. This is how we merge now back into glacial periods. So for the last few weeks we've been talking about all this, just wasn't aware of what actually it was that triggered it. But once I found out, I also found out that NASA was fully aware of it. And as you can see, that as this chart shows you, not just the fact that we are about to evidently go back into another glacial period, but it also shows you that CO2 has nothing to driving up the temperature, because if you just read what I've put on this chart, it'll explain why that is. Because currently we're at a time where there's more CO2 than ever has been in the history of the Earth, according to the facts of the ice core samples that have been done. But even if we compare the last 4 interglacial periods where the Earth got warmer, CO2, if it was responsible for raising the climate, should have raised it a lot more than what it is at this present day, where we are closest on the chart at 0, because we know that CO2 is at 400 parts per million. Well, back 125,000 years during an interglacial period, when the Earth had warmed out of the glacial period, we can see that the temperature was just around 3 degrees Celsius. Well, we've got more CO2 in the atmosphere now than we ever have done. And you can see that the temperature is the lowest in the last 4 interglacial cycles. It makes absolutely no sense. But here's the deal. They had to raise $100 trillion, and they needed an excuse to do it. And that excuse was, let's blame mankind since the Industrial Revolution, and let's blame him for putting CO2 into the atmosphere at such a rate that it's changed climate in favour of global warming. What I've just debunked here is probably the biggest scam and robbery in human history. Do you understand that, guys? What I've just given you, what information I've just given you in this video, right, could save you hundreds of thousands of pounds right now. You have it well ahead of a lot of other people, this information. So if you are living in the Northern Hemisphere and you have the means to move further south, you can do that right now. But I guarantee you, wait till everybody finds out about this. Your house is not going to be worth a sausage. You know what's coming. If you're going to stay in them territories in the Northern Hemisphere above 40, 50 degrees latitude, then you better learn how to become an Eskimo. You better learn how to fish, because if you stay in your cities, you're dead. And you know it, because this event is about to last another 100,000 years. And we've seen what happened in Texas last year, just in a couple of weeks, having minus 0 degrees temperatures, drove a lot of snow, shut the grid down for over 100 million people. How will people cope with tens and tens of thousands of years in sub-zero temperatures? This will kill not hundreds, not thousands, not millions, but billions of people. Ladies and gentlemen, if today's video was not an encouragement for you to support what we do here at this observatory, then there is no hope. There really is no hope, because what I've showed you in this video obviously has been backed up with facts, and you've seen that NASA know it, and yet they've not mentioned a single word to anybody in the mainstream media. You know now why Bill Gates is buying up all that land, don't you? The link's down there. Support what we do. It's well worth it. As always, bye for now.